I would like to start at least to answer some questions. And if you'd like to see a couple of videos, I have a video of what the students just did at Maker Faire. It's kind of fun, little short, and some other things too. But let's take a breath here and also know, where I am on the time schedule. But just to kind of wrap it up, I think I have it here. Yeah, we are here. We're at the point where, whether we want to or not, oil is going to become less and less of a possibility for running our economy. And everybody says, well, solar is fine for generating electricity, but what about finding a place to put enough electricity to run our transportation system and everything else? And I say that the air rights over our streets is a really good place to look, because there's plenty of it, and this is where I think we can really make a breakthrough. And then we can say, we don't want Texas energy, we don't want West Virginia energy, we don't want North Dakota energy, we don't want Saudi or Nigeria energy. We're going to do it right here in River City. Silicon Valley, Silicon Energy, Silicon Transportation. That's my vision.
Quick questions. How do city fathers take to the idea of building elevated transit-ways and
Did you say city fathers?
City fathers, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commissions, etc.
Very good question. In March, we created the ATN Association, the Automated Transportation Network Association. That was the articles of incorporation were signed by mayors, former mayors, city council member, and one staff person who's in transportation, and one economic commissioner. From Milpitas, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, San Jose, Mountain View, did I say that? Anyway, 6 cities here. And we're rocking and rolling. We're meeting every month, and we would encourage you to if you have something to talk about with this community, to reach out to us. But very much so, we are working on a continuing basis to build rapport and educate the people in the public sector. And because this is so much, number 10X, because this is so much more economical than anything on the market, we think that we can do this with public-private partnerships. I built a solar system for the city of Santa Cruz last year, and they, we put up the money and built it, and they're renting from us the electricity until it's paid off. It's pretty straightforward. Then they own the thing, and from then on, they got free electricity. So it was done as a public-private partnership. I think we can repeat that with cities doing this kind of thing. And since they don't have any money, they don't even have money for doing the processing of this, because there's no consultants out there, traffic consultants that they can hire who can specify this stuff. So we're just going to have to do this in private activity. We've got some tricks up our sleeve. It's real important that we reach out to this. And the city of San Jose put up their staff time. VTA put in $2 million to study this a couple years ago, and they came up, hey, the technology is not quite ready yet. But they didn't put $1 aside from that study for education. So that's why we're working with students. Because I think in fact, it's really funny. They said that they were going to mentor the students. You know what's really going on? Is the students are showing them what it's all about. And they're solving the remaining technical problems, one right after the other. We're getting there, knocking out all the challenges. How do you do this with a suspended system? And by the way, one of the main reasons for doing that is because it's harder. That's what the professor said. Yeah. The student asked, well, why are we going with a suspended system? The professor just turned right around and said, because it's harder. In other words, I don't want to give you an A just for sitting there in your seat. You're going to have to work for it. And guess what? There are benefits in the crew when you go that route, because we have a much more elegant footprint, especially in those areas where we have to really make the system small. So, I can give you 10 reasons. More questions?
What's the alternative to the suspended system if you're going to get up? Is it
Well, the problem there is that, first of all, I don't want people climbing around on these tracks. If I build a track and somebody can walk on it, then that means that sooner or later somebody's going to be there and is going to stand there in the way of its progress. And that's number one. The other reason is that if I have to put the track here and then put a roof over the top of it with the solar panels, that's not going to work. If I put them down in the roadbed like this latest outfit coming from Solar Roadways out of Idaho, then I'm going to have shade a lot of the time. I'm going to have all kinds of growing and everything else on them. So I don't want to do that. So it just looks like the simplest packaging. But the other thing is, if you go over there to the Great Wall, right next to it, you know, there's this light rail system. It's not light. It's huge. It's so high and so obnoxious visually. I have some pictures up here. Let's see if I can.
You also get shade for your occupants.
Bingo. In fact, we have, for the exhibit in San Francisco coming up, I have a group of students at Fresno State who are doing thermal analysis, and they're looking at different shading possibilities.
And for the cars underneath.
So is this quick time?
This is a street in Hawaii, Honolulu, where they're considering this. And they've got it right in Waikiki. Now compare that to that. There's our system. Which would you rather do? Yeah.
Yeah, I see that you have Google up there as one of your sponsors.
Well, they're actually mentors. They haven't sponsored us. They have mentored us.
All right, one of your mentors. But at least you're talking to.
Yeah.
And I'm a Mountain View resident, and one of the things that absolutely blew my mind when they put the light rail in was the light rail ends in downtown Mountain View.
Right.
Guess where all of, or the vast majority of the traffic is during commute times?
Not in downtown.
It's not in
Shoreline.
downtown Mountain View. It's over in Shoreline where Google is at.
Right.
Guess where the heavy traffic is on weekends in the summertime?
Shoreline.
Shoreline Park.
Concerts.
Concerts.
Yep.
So it seems to me that your solution would be a really good solution for Mountain View. And I understand it took me a while to figure out why the hell didn't they route the light rail through the Shoreline Park area and then back into Mountain View. Then I realized that, oh, they have to go over Stevens Creek, they have to go over 101, and the tracks were already there for Mountain View. So the extra cost would have been prohibitive. So what do? They run shuttles. The shuttles are inadequate, from what I've seen from the track, and the shuttles are on the road, and they back the traffic up. So, and the best commute from downtown Mountain View to Google is by bicycle. But not everybody likes to go by bicycle, and if you don't live in the area, you live up in San Francisco, and you commute down by bus. And it's an interesting problem.
It is. Well, I'll tell you another one. To talk about Shoreline concerts. There's a new building going up in Santa Clara, and I think the 49ers have something to do with this. 70,000 seats almost. How many parking spaces? Anybody know?
10,000?
Yeah.
You're over less.
5,000, something like that.
Close to about 4,000, 3,000 to 4,000.
They do have the light rail, but you can only get so many people in and out per hour.
Okay, so back to your bicycle and light rail. I'm downtown San Jose. I've got my camera with me. Where do you suppose the guy rides on his bicycle between, say, San Carlos and Santa Clara Street?
On the side.
On a bicycle. No, you don't want to run over pedestrians.
In the street.
No, because you don't want to get run over by a car.
Sidewalk.
No, I said you don't want to run over pedestrians. Not the sidewalk, or not the street.
On the light rail.
between the two rails.
Oh,
That's the safest place to be, riding a bicycle for this public transportation system. Go there and just stand there for a few minutes on on an afternoon and wait till you see a bicycle coming. I'll bet you lunch that you'll be riding between those two rails until the train comes and he pulls over, and the train goes by and he pulls back and goes right on.
As long as two
Wow.
trains.
Oh, wow.
Am I making myself clear? This is not a transportation system. I was with Rob Dearden, who's given credit for building this thing. We're talking about how to get from the Dearden station, you catch the connection there, to the airport. And I said, well, why don't we just take a short shuttle with this technology from the airport over to the light rail? And then from there, they can switch light rail and go to the train station. What was his answer? No, that would be too slow.
Try it some other way.
So what he said is we have to go with pod cars all the way from the airport down to the station, especially when it becomes a supposedly high-speed rail. And it's starting to catch on. Transportation in a three-dimensional community, two-dimensional transportation in a three-dimensional community does not work. It doesn't work. Just too many people and not enough space. And we're humans. We deserve the streets for ourselves and not for machines. Get the machines out of the way. You can put them up or down. If you put them down, then my solar panels won't work. Yeah.
And it's expensive to dig.
You don't say. So there's two good reasons to go up. And by the way, if I get up higher, I'm closer to the sun, so I get more sunshine.
Hey, you got a nice view.
And you got a nice view. That's very interesting because actually, I think what's really going to sell this is not that everybody complaining about the bad thing in front of their eyes, like that compared to that. Hello. But let's just say even that bothers people. But once they get in these things and they see the spectacular views you have by being just a little bit up, being able to look over things and go from here to there, I think it's going to sell big time. But we have to get something built to prove that. So what I'm doing is I'm working with these cities around the valley, looking for the right spot to do this. I've already given you a couple of hints for it. You gave them a good hint. Clearly, from the light rail and the Castro Street area there where the station is, over on Shoreline, right up to the employment area there, is a bingo, perfect application for this. First thing we have to do is educate the council in Mountain View. They're still struggling with this idea as something off into the future. What they don't realize, I think, is that one way or another, some community, and it may be around here, is going to glom onto this thing, and that will become the center of gravity for transportation for the foreseeable future. And if that happens first in because they're so advanced in other rail systems, if it first happens in Sweden, or it first happens in Mexico, there's a group in Guadalajara, Mexico, working on this. And they're way ahead of us. The Silicon Valley of Mexico is Guadalajara. They are doing it, and they pulled together people from industry, from government, from academia, research centers. They pulled it all together and they're building. They're building prototypes and demos, but they're building. And they're way ahead of us. It's embarrassing. You haven't spoken yet.
Oh, yeah. So is there an estimate for a cost per mile or for this sort of track?
Well, I drove we have a group of students just finished a report for us, which is confidential, but I might be able to share some parts of that if someone wants to get into it. It's students in the Graduate School of Business at the Rishi Graduate School. And they said that we probably should aim for a $5 fare and see if the economics work with $5. How much do you suppose I paid for parking to go to that meeting?
More than $5.
That would be $20. How much is a parking space going to be for that new stadium down there in Santa Clara?
$30 probably.
50 to 80.
Wow.
So you don't realize it, that free parking space you have out there, your host, Hewlett Packard, would love to have that to do something different. That dirt is worth, what is it, $100 a square foot. So every one of those parking spaces, without putting any asphalt on it, is worth thousands of dollars. And it just isn't taken into account. And if we're going to have EVs, I'm all for that. But keep them small, keep them in the neighborhood, use them for the last mile, and use this where you can to get around that major route. You were in the back, had another one.
Recently, in West LA, I think the proposal was put forth by ETA to potentially add another lane to Highway 85 from way down to Mountain View.
Well, yeah.
Lots of cities along the way, certainly, so I was protesting, saying, wait, we need to agree with 20 years ago, ain't gonna happen. Is this possibility being considered for that center right of way between the two lanes?
Well,
It seems like it's a bit.
we've had some conversations with the city of Cupertino and elected officials there. And one of the things that seems clear is they're very upset with ETA. There you have it. So maybe I could tell you a little more about that story at some point. But I think the simple answer is that I think we've got to find a first pass at this someplace a little simpler than going down the freeway. But there's a company you might have heard of building a big new campus over in Cupertino for their employees. And I think they have something in north of 10,000 people a day moving in and out of there. And I think they're going to encounter a little congestion. Yeah, if I'm wrong, I'll buy you lunch.
What about that other high-tech company up in Menlo Park, especially the Netflix thing?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think they're going to face the music too. Yeah, this has got to change, folks. And the thing is that we have a unique situation here with all of the congestion. And if we work ourselves into a tizzy here and really focus on this. You know, my grandfather's in the construction business, and he used to tell me, he says, he was from Sweden, of course, says, you got to stick to one thing and then drive it hard. And I think this is something we have to drive hard in our community. We have to drive hard for something. And I like the electric vehicle, and there's a lot of brain power here right in this room that could be focused. And our students need a lot of help. And, you know, I had no idea that this was going to be a possible fundraiser. But I would love to take their money. But I'd also really love to see you guys get down to San Jose State and work with these students. You know, this university goes back to the 1860s or something like that. It's kind of in the shadow of Berkeley and Stanford. And I'm a Stanford guy too. But I happened to teach at San Jose State back in the 60s when this whole thing hit me like a ton of bricks. Bucky Fuller came in. I was teaching the class. I was a junior teacher myself. And he said, we should be saving this oil for a rainy day. Whoa, that was 1966. And here it is, almost 50 years later. And we're still burning. I mean, we got rid of cooking on a fireplace. You can imagine somebody building a campfire in the middle of the kitchen and trying to go, you know, trying to cook their dinner. We got past that, didn't we, for our urban living? And I'm not against going camping, don't get me wrong. But the urban environment is not the place to be burning anything. We're past that point. Okay, you can have a barbecue. And let's have a race with these belching monsters once in a great while. And remember back in the good old days when we were in high school or something. But after that, let's get on with the business at hand, which is to get off of fossil fuels. Now, no time to waste. Yes, ma'am.
So are you thinking of picking up at Stanford also, and if not, why not?
If I have been, I went to Stanford. I've gone to Stanford and talked to people. I'm trying to get, you know, these guys ring their bell, and they're always too busy. They've got a grant from Exxon or from BP or from Detroit, and they're getting a really better internal combustion engine instead of 10.
Instead of a battery.
Instead
of a battery.
Or something, yeah. Instead of 10 miles per gallon, we're getting to 10.23 miles per gallon. And they're celebrating and doing carpets. I'm going crazy. If any of you know a professor at Stanford that's ready to join the 21st century Hallelujah. Let's get a group of students at Stanford. They can run circles around all these old fuddy-duddies who are, I go to these companies, they go, oh, come on. This is time for us to really get the young people fired up on. It's their world that we're creating the opportunities for. So, yeah.
There was a contract proposal that was in the city of Mountain View a couple of months ago. Was this that proposal that they ended up tabling and said we're not going to move forward at the time?
I was there. I suggested that they join our association and put up $2,500. I spent $2,500 on the ATN association because I have staff and people working for me every month. And they couldn't come up with $2,500. And I don't really blame them because there's not enough constituency yet, and they don't want to stick their necks out. Okay, they're politicians. They have to see if there's something there to jump into it. And what was being proposed at the time was for the city to get into the R&D business. And I agree with the conclusion of the city council that it probably doesn't make sense for the city to do this. But there's a bunch of engineers in this room. You get down there with the students at San Jose State and start, turning wrenches and welding things up and so on and so forth. And they're working right now. If you want to come with me this afternoon, we'll go right down there and you can see what they're doing. It's amazing. We're making real progress. And we're focusing in on the tough parts of this, how to get the things that aren't working out of the way so that then we can. I'm not suggesting that they're going to go into the manufacturing business, but the manufacturers come there and say, see what those 20-somethings did? Why can't you guys? Let them see it. Then we're going places. Yeah.
This kind of is reminiscent of, I can't remember the year, but in Los Angeles, they had a perfectly good electric transportation system.
Oh,
I think it was called the Red Line.
Yeah.
And Detroit, in cahoots with Big Oil, had it all worked out so that they could put in their buses. And that's what you're really up against. There's big money and the evil ones still at large. It isn't like they've gone away.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I think we're okay. I think that I don't want to worry about the government. I don't want to worry about big business. I want to think about big ideas. I was talking to a group of venture capitalists. We had a university in Silicon Valley, a success university. I was invited to be there. It wasn't my idea. But anyway, there were a panel of VCs, and I said, wait a minute. They were talking about how to create $1 billion company and blah, blah, blah. And I said, what about $1 billion nonprofit? Like the Red Cross is $1 billion, isn't it? And I said, what would it take to have $1 billion nonprofit? And the guy said, you have to have a really good idea. I think this is a really good idea. I think this is something that is beyond business. This is salvation, literally. We have to get off oil, not only because it's polluting the atmosphere, but because there's a finite amount of it. And our great-great-grandchildren, as Bucky said back in 1966, if they could get in a time machine, they'd come back here and they'd pull out their wallets and they'd pay us $100 an hour to stay home, and they would save money. Easily, what we're doing to destroy the planet as it stands now. They pay us good money to stay home. And I say, when we get this thing built, let's take every taxi driver in San Francisco or wherever the beef is about it, pay them 5 times what they're making now for the rest of their lives, and we would be making money for everything. We'd be happy.
Are you thinking doing like a automated browning for this? So kind of, like personal electrons idea, since they're so small, so you can take them down to the neighborhood level.
Oh,
and tail them.
You mean take it off the track?
No, it's still on the track, but make tracks. Because obviously most rail today tends to be point-to-point.
Right.
And, with such a small car,
yeah,
automated signaling, you could potentially make it such a good call, and it can come to a particular place and go back.
Yeah, I didn't get into a lot of detail, honestly. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And we have videos. If you go to our website, you see.
There was a link in an email I sent that showed Just exactly that. Okay, I'll
We'll go back to this slide here. You go to those websites, and just right there, INIST.org, and there you'll see a whole bunch of videos that explain just what you're talking about. We are designing this as a physical internet. You move around and you program where you're going, and off you go. I really wanted the opportunity to have a discussion with you folks. That's why I didn't show you a bunch of videos. But we've got lots of interesting stuff. There's a video of what happened last month with the students at the Maker Fair. It's not published yet, but there's one there. If you one website there, GoFundMe. If you go from Superway, there's a link. You go to the GoFundMe website, and there you can donate money to the cause on a modest basis. If you want to become a sponsor, we have a sponsorship program because we're going. I just got an email yesterday from the management of the Intersolar, and they want to do a video about what we're up to. So we're going to be the buzz in San Francisco next month. It's really going to be cool.
I'm sorry, I was gone during some of the discussion. Did anybody bring up the program that was on PBS recently about the pod cars? They're talking about building something in D.C.
Oh, there is a project in West Virginia, and the DOT has just awarded a contract for upgrading the control system. Who got that contract?
I don't know.
Oh, wait.
Nope, they did it in the first place 40 years ago. I said it earlier. Who has the best expertise in transportation in the world? Rail transportation.
Obviously.
France. France. The French got that contract.
Right.
Out of curiosity, have you seen the pod movers in Australia? I think it's in downtown Melbourne. I want to say Melbourne. I was riding it in 1989.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Pull up, jump in, free.
Okay, but it was like a gym.
No, elevated.
Elevated.
Yes.
Oh, good. I didn't know about that. Not to tell me more if you can. I'd like to know more about that. You want to roll on to the next one? You got one more time.
You got more questions? No? Well, then let's thank Ron for his wonderful presentation.
Likewise. You exceeded my expectations. It's not every day I can ask people the difference between power and energy, and they know what we're talking about. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
This would be Rishi Narain. Yep. Yeah, Rishi said he's going to skip his presentation because he wants to do Q&A. So here he is.
Hi, my name is Rishi Narain, and I'm from Slingshot Power. We're a local clean energy company. We're based in Los Altos. We're at 164 Main. We have a storefront there. Please come by and see us. I had a little presentation put together on, fossil fuels versus going solar. Ron's presentation was so good, and let's get a show of hands again. How many of you guys have already gone solar? You're my favorite people. I could get, I could go into any other room in the Bay Area and get as many people, and I might get one or two hands. So it's always good to be talking to people who understand the benefits of going solar. So what we do at Slingshot is we do residential and commercial installations of solar, EV chargers, and LED lighting. We want people to think about energy from a holistic perspective. If you look at the energy pie of the U.S., 44% coal, and that's just in terms of electricity generation. If you expand into transportation, it's effectively all oil. So, a lot of people, I think, don't necessarily put two and two together and say, okay, great, I've got an EV, I've stopped burning gas. Congratulations, you're now burning more coal. So, going solar, obviously, you're moving from $4 a gallon gas. If you're on PG&E, you're paying the equivalent of $2.50. If you pair it with the solar that you're producing, you're on the equivalent of 50 cents a gallon worth of gas. That should be a huge seller. People should be clamoring for EVs. To an extent they are, we obviously need more. One of the reasons we call ourselves Slingshot is, we're evoking David and Goliath. And I think for a lot of times, we've been talking about what Detroit has done, what big oil has done in terms of trying to stifle technology. People can feel pretty powerless, but the fact of the matter is these days, taking some small steps by yourself, going solar, buying an EV, getting yourself off that fossil fuel cycle, you can make a difference, and the more people we get doing that, you really can make a difference. So we want people to think about owning their power. You're not going Chevron for your gas. You're not going to PG&E for your electricity. If you own your power, you're producing it all. If we get more people doing that, that undercuts all the influence we have, all the things that are stopping us from getting elevated solar roadways or solar panels embedded in the roadways, and all these great ideas that are coming out right now. So that's a little bit about us. Obviously, most of you guys are not solar. Again, great. I would love it if we didn't have any more customers left. You got a question?
I've got some lighting in my kitchen.
Uh-huh.
There's 8 C40 bulbs. Is there a cheap way to put those into LEDs and make my own? I remove the ballast. Do you have some quick solutions?
The quick solution is probably not as quick as you're hoping. I mean, you're going to have to take out those ballasts. You're going to have to put in just LED fixtures, which is pretty basic electrical work. So, yeah, that's the easiest thing. So people can talk to you about the simple ways to do that.
But they do come in tubes.
You can get, the ones we have are going to be the ones that fit standard fixtures. We're not selling those ones yet. A couple of our partners are working on getting us distribution, so it's a question there. But
actually, I do have the LED, the fluorescent tube.
Okay.
Not tube, but in tape.
Okay.
And you only have to put a transformer up there.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. Those are really neat.
And it's lighter than fluorescent, and it's very inexpensive. There's a wholesale place in LED wholesale place in Hayward.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got it from them, and I just take it for myself very easy.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. Those are really neat, and they're really flexible in that way. So they do some great things. Let's go here.
You install EV chargers. A guy at work asked me, "Who can I get to install this charger for me?"
Yeah.
He wanted somebody that's licensed.
We do level 2 chargers. We do have licensed electricians. We don't do any work that is not permitted. So we'll do the lookouts. If you need main panel upgrade, we'll do that as well.
You have business cards here?
I've got. I'll see what I've got for you, but I'll get your info and make sure we get in touch. We deal in AeroVironment and Eaton chargers. We've stocked Bosch. I think we're a little bit on the fence as to whether we're going to continue with them. But yeah, we'll do level 2 chargers. So we'll do the load counts to see if you need a main panel upgrade. Okay. We are doing commercial as well, so if you want it in your workplace, talk to us. We'll work with your employer.
Is your company doing anything with domestic solar storage?
Yes and no. The industry in general is seemingly a little hesitant. And when I say the industry in general, I'm talking more on just the actual selling it, not the R&D. The price point for most people to do their own off-grid storage right now doesn't seem to be a winner for most people. So there's a little bit of going back to the drawing board and seeing how we can effectively sell it. So the intent is, yes, we would like to provide that for people, but we don't have a product right now that we think is a win. We're always looking for one that we think will get us there. So the intent, long term, obviously, we'd like to provide that. It just isn't quite there right now for us to be able to sell it.
PV array on your house, how much a watt you install labor and material? What's it gotten down to?
So for some of our group buy rates, where we can offer kind of more substantial discounts, we've gotten down to I think $375, but most people are still looking at about $425.
What panels are there?
I'm sorry.
What panels are you?
We're using SunPower, LG. We had been stocking Yingli, but we've kind of moved a little bit away from them. We're doing Canadian Solar as well. We're always looking for new products, but for the most part, when we tell people we have SunPower, they're jumping for it. They want the best in the market. So that's what's been there. Any other questions about this kind of products in general? Because I have a couple other things that I figured we could talk about as well. Going into some of the things that Wes was talking about at the beginning of the meeting, there's a couple of things that we're doing that we were specifically interested in talking with your group about. And the two main things are, one is events, things like Experience Electric. We've been working with the California Center to see if we can get more test drives going, other events going. Obviously, we'd love to exhibit those events and drum up some business for ourselves. But we are trying to just raise general awareness about EVs. So we'd love to be working with you guys to put on more test drives, more events, and things like that. So we'd love to provide you support in terms of manpower, in terms of other resources for putting on some of those events. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is digital content, internet content. We're doing a big push with some of our websites. We're trying to, what we've been internally calling, develop the admins of EVs. We want kind of a centralized place that people can go on the net to get information on EVs. If somebody's thinking about going electric right now, information is a bit scattered. The EPA website has a decent comparison chart that gives you some information, but it doesn't quite have. If I wanted to go and buy a regular gas-powered car right now, I can go to Auto Trader, I can go to Edmunds, I can go to all these places, and there's a lot of content, there's a lot of expert voices, things like that. And we feel very strongly that there should be something similar for EVs. So, we're trying to develop that portal, and we've developed some content internally. But I think the thing that's really going to strengthen it is we're working on blogging. So a lot of us in the company have been writing various blog posts on different things. Some of it is about technology, some of it is about energy. All the different issues that are kind of associated, all the things that are going to make people want to go electric. Do they need to know about the fact that these are high-performance cars, they're going to beat whatever gas guzzler they're thinking about? Do they need to talk about the fact that going electric and getting it on solar or other renewable is going to be better than burning coal? So there's a whole host of things that are worth talking about. There's other things, somebody, like myself, I live in a condo, and for a long time I thought, well, I can't buy an EV, I don't have any place to install a charger. California now has a law that prohibits HOAs from prohibiting installations. There's still a lot of logistics to talk about, but where does somebody go to find out about things like that? So it could be something as small as this. There's a whole host of different things that people who are going to want to buy EVs should know about. And again, we want to help developing that content.
Are you familiar with the Plug in America website?
We've looked at them as well. We definitely want to be linking to them. And as much as we need content for our own website, we need to be linking to places. People can't just come to the website. If they see one website trying to tell them everything, they're going to mistrust it. They need to know that it's plugged into other people as well. So we are trying to develop a whole ecosystem of content. And again, part of that is blogging. So we'd love for contributions, ideas for things that should go up.
I get a very nice feed from Angelo that's got all these latest news things that are EV related. So maybe
yeah, that would be great. That would be great to discuss. One of the other blogs that we're launching, and this is something that I think would specifically work with your group here. We're launching a website called Best Saturday. And what that's meant to be is it's very much kind of an experiential, EV lifestyle type blog. The idea being, tell us about your best Saturday. And that could be, a trip you took in your EV somewhere. And it doesn't have to be technical. We really want to just give people, this is the flavor of what it's like to be an EV owner. It might be the fact that you thought you were just buying an EV and it was going to be a cool new car. But then you sat down and you did the math and you realized, wow, with the money I'm saving with this, with the money I'm saving with solar, I've got my retirement covered, or I've got my kids' college fund covered. It might be a trip you took with your family out to the beach and you realize, if I took this trip in a gas-powered car, I'd be ruining this, the scenery. So, again, it's a sort of softer feel of things that make people feel better about home EV.
Do you know of a website called Goal Zero?
I've heard of Goal Zero, yeah. We work with them a little bit, so.
Okay. They've given up primarily when you first hit their landing page. They don't go to a products menu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they go to a thing that they call Solar Life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about people who have used generally some of their products or extensively their products, and about how they've implemented it into their life. That's a concept that you might want to look at also.
That's great. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for. It is, like I said, it's very much a lifestyle type blog. I mean, you can talk about performance, you can talk about sales, you can talk about stock and things like that in some places, but we also do want that place where, again, people talk about what it's like to own an EV, and it's part about generating that buzz. There's, obviously we're preaching to the choir here. You guys all know the value of an EV. I've been trying to get my mom to get an EV for a while because it would be ideal for her. She's, she lives the lifestyle for it, and she's just really unsure. So it's about giving that kind of place where, essentially what you guys are doing here can go worldwide, potentially.
What's the address?
So we haven't put that blog live yet. It will be bestsaturday.com when it goes up. We're still doing a lot of the back end stuff, doing all the graphics, putting all the formatting up, and getting our initial collections. If any of you guys are interested in, maybe writing a 400 to 500 word blog post about it, we'd love to get in touch with you and get some content going so that when the site goes live, there's a series of stories. People from our own company, Go EVs, are going to be doing some contributions as well. And we're trying to reach out to people to get those stories. Again, whatever you feel like you can tell anybody, something that they're not going to get from the dealer, or if they get from the dealer, they're not going to believe it. Of course, when you go to a car dealer and tell you this vehicle is going to change your life, you're like, sure it is. How much are you going to charge me? When you talk to another person, somebody who owns the car, you're going to trust that a lot more.
2 items. First of all, what you're going through trying to convince your mother to get an EV, that's a bloggable thing. Second question, what kind of car do you drive?
I drive a 2007 Honda Civic Hybrid. I had to buy that car. I bought it new, and I've had it now for 7 years. I would love to go EV. Like I said, I live in a condo. I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to get my charger in. We are in the market for a good car right now. So I'm figuring out how much I want to fight with my HOA to get a charger installed in the common area. Yeah, I've a lot of that. I'm going to be loving telling these stories. And again, it's I'm up here and obviously working for a company that sells things, and I'd love to get business from you guys, but I really am up here also because I believe in the EV and solar movement. You look at the way we're using energy. Ron put it perfectly. I'm really glad I was here. And as a side note, I'm a part-time grad student at San Jose State. I took a solar engineering class a year and a half ago, and one of the projects that the kids were working on was exactly that. So this is the second time I'm seeing it, and it's still just as cool as the first time I saw it. The technology that's there, the ideas that are there. I mean, these are all huge, amazing things. We can completely rethink the way that we're living. And it's really frustrating to me that I can't go into more rooms like this and see this many people who have already gone solar. Solar roadways, elevator are the way of the future. Solar PV is technology that we've known about for 100 years, and you drive around the Bay Area, you look at houses, and you see like maybe 1 in 10 with solar on the roof, and it's just, why not more? Why aren't we there yet? Why aren't there more EVs on the road?
Yeah, on that, for instance, PG&E land, with a decently priced PV system, it's cheaper than baseline power.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper, and again, I like to tell stories about my mom. We thought about going solar back in 2000. We saw an inconvenient truth, and that was our spur to go and think about going solar. So we went to West Coast Green, and that was the first time we met with any solar companies. We got a big quote, and as it is, our family uses very little energy anyway. We have a bill that's about $70 a month for a rather large house. So the price point wasn't there for us to go there. But that quote has stuck with my mom. This big $30,000 quote to go solar. Those prices are now, my mom can get a system now for $5,000. One that would offset all her usage, and that's true of a lot of people. But they still have it in their mind that solar is this big, huge, I can't afford it purchase that's going to take 15 years to pay off. And that's not where we're at. The industry has totally changed. Your TV hasn't stayed the same for 15 years. Why on earth would the technology behind solar stay the same? And people don't seem to grasp that. I've done canvassing before for solar, and I've knocked on the door of people, and aside from the fact that they don't want to deal with somebody who's knocking on their door, you say solar, and they're just like, somebody's already been here. I don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear about the financing options. They don't want to hear about the increase in technology. They don't want to hear the value proposition. They're just, solar is too big for a lot of people, and it really shouldn't be. The whole point should be right now, again, you should be able to own it. It's to the point. We've done this enough. This is a mature industry. We're not selling you cylindrous solar panels, which you still sometimes hear the objection about. We know how to do this. We really do, and people don't seem to grasp that. So obviously, you guys do. I think you share my commiserations here. So
compared to
when I got my last set of solar panels installed, I got a lot of help from the city of San Francisco, financial help. I'm wondering how many of those types of programs are still in place?
There's Palo Alto in particular right now has some attractive options. We're doing a lot of work in the community of Mountain House, which is out towards Tracy. The utility out there is still offering some pretty great incentives for residents. They're scaling it back. There's talk they might scale it back up. San Francisco is obviously one of the leaders in the Bay Area. Santa Clara County has, some of you may have heard of the HERO program. Effectively, what they'll do is they'll essentially give you 10 to 15% of your home's value in a add-on to your property tax that will pay for green renovations to your home, including solar. But it would also cover like redoing your HVAC, redoing your ventilation, rainwater reclamation, whatever you can think of. And it just gets added onto your property tax. And it's linked to the property. It's not linked to your own credit. So if you sold the house, it's part of the house at that point. Which is, again, it's a pretty great incentive. I mean, effectively you're getting free solar funds, and the payments for it become tax deductible because they'll go on your property tax. So there are still plenty of good incentives left. There's always been talk about how many of them are going to run out. But in the communities that we're dealing with, for the most part, people are still seeing pretty great returns.
One thing I noticed that might be kind of making these more challenging now, we were just discussing actually before this meeting. It seems like some of the jurisdictions have been adopting new fire codes, which is making the amount of reasonable roof ridiculously small. Have you seen that, and heard this industry kind of, well?
So that's a very, very interesting, very relevant question. The state as a whole is looking to try and standardize some of these fire codes, and it depends on your roof. So there's a couple of things in play here. One is the Solar Bill of Rights, and that is that all new homes that are constructed should be constructed to maximize the roof space available for solar. So the places where you're seeing like really, really minimized roof space due to fire codes is because of architectural features, random ridges of roofs and things like that. The basis of the fire code is essentially on any given side of your solar panel. The fire department wants 3 feet of space so that a fireman has a place to step that is not a solar panel. And some intelligent, competent design of the system will also ensure that you're not losing too much. The size and scale of homes that we as a company deal with, for the most part, that hasn't been an issue. Complying and still getting 15, 20 panels on the roof for the most part hasn't been an issue. It becomes an issue if you have a very fancy roof. And you'll see that mostly in older homes. Again, newer homes are designed so that the south-facing roof is maximized so you can get as much solar as you want on it. And again, that's one of those things. Why weren't we doing this before? It's just, and it might have happened if we had pushed solar earlier. But if you pull up your house on Google Earth, one of the nice things is it automatically orients it north-south, so you can look at your south-facing roof and you can see if you have a lot of different ridges. That might be a reason that you lose some roof space. But a sufficiently large house, by and large, you're not going to have a problem fitting about 8 to 10 panels, which would do a good deal of the work anyway. So smaller homes, that might be an issue, again, if they have complex roofs, but larger houses, even if they have a lot of fancy architectural features that require some different fire setbacks, we haven't found it to be too much of a problem.
A company called Cylinder, remember them? They would do. I thought one of the best features of their system was the passive tracking. Is there anything being done in the way of tracking for domestic installations?
It's a little different for domestic installations. Again, for the most part, you're going to be flush to the roof, or you're going to be at whatever angle that you need to be to optimize it. So there's not the same kind of need. the sort of technology that Cylinder was into was going to be for very different applications than we're dealing with. So and it really is for us. It's kind of apples and oranges what they were doing. So I mean, your question is well taken, and yes, that's a bit of an issue for the industry at large. For what we're doing, for what the average homeowner is going to have to do, it's not as much of a concern. Just in terms of the bulk of systems that we tend to deal with, and the components that you use for residential are a little smaller in scale and better able to deal with it. People who are working at utility scale are obviously going to have to worry more about that, and there's companies that are really working specifically on that. So if you're having a conversation with somebody and they ask you that kind of thing, it's not applicable to residential at large. In 9 out of 10 cases, they're not going to have to deal with that. In the back.
Do you do microinverters on individual panels as well? And when do you choose that over?
We've heavily converted over to the use of microinverters for a couple of reasons. One is permitting. It's a lot easier to get system permitted with microinverters. It's also a lot easier to install. And if we save time on installation, it gets past that saving right on the customer. So our install teams really like it. It makes their time up on the roof a lot more efficient. And like we said, the cities, when they see the microinverters as a system, because especially when we buy the panel that has the microinverter already on it, sort of factory installed, they treat that as a whole component, and they don't have to do as much essential auditing on it. So the city permitting offices really like them, and because they do, we do. The faster we can get you permitted, the faster we can get you installed. The faster we can get you installed, the faster we can get paid. So we love microinverters, and we've found that the modularity that they give you is really good for us. It tends to get us systems that the customers like and that we like, that we can efficiently design. So yes, we're big fans.
I read somewhere where IKEA was trying to put together a standardized modular system for a couple watt in the box. You pick it up and install it. Is that going anywhere?
I don't know where that's going. I think we would love to live in that world because I think we can sell for even cheaper. I think that's, at this point, I think that's really a materials question. We're at sort of the theoretical limits for most panels in terms of efficiency. So to get that down to $1 a watt, either you get your installers to install for free, or you get just cheaper panels. So I install it. We need to pay our installers.
No, I speak.
Oh, really? Okay, so
it's IKEA.
That's true. It is IKEA. I've taken Grid Alternatives installation training, and they're very picky about how they do it. I am an engineer. I've been an engineering technician. I've been out in the field with a wrench. I don't know if I want to get up on a roof and install it. It's a great idea, and I guess if you had a simple enough roof, it's there in principle. I got to tell you, if I was trying to install high voltage stuff, I'd want a professional doing it. That's my own opinion. I think it would be great if there was something, if you want to give customers the freedom, they should be able to do it. And there's plenty of people I think out there who would be well qualified to do it. I'd love to see what they plan on doing in terms of design verification. We have had people say, I want panels put on the north side of my house because then I will see them. Just putting that out there, so, yeah, but that's what I know about that. It's good here.
Yeah, I had one similar question about cost. So you said $4 a watt approximately, and I have seen now total systems being sold 110 kilowatts for just the material, $1.5 per watt. So that means most of the cost is on the installation, permitting, and design. So do you have some comments about how to bring this down?
There's a couple of things, just internally for ourselves, not necessarily as an industry as a whole, we're looking at how we can maximize, time spent permitting, doing site assessments and things like that. What we're limited by is just how accurate a picture of your roof we can get. We do use a lot of Google Earth to do our assessments. Google Earth is only so accurate. If you want more accurate pictures of the roof, you've got to go and either get somebody up there on it, or you've got to have some other satellite-based technology that's going to do it. If you can scale that to terrific. You've cut down a lot of your design time. The other thing then is just how good are your crews? You know, we've had some growing pains as a company. We've had bad installers, and it's cost us money on occasion because they'll get up there and they'll do things wrong. So there's some basic labor issues there that'll be at play, and you know, there is no standard roof. So that's one of the things that kind of keeps costs at a certain level right now. If we, you know, and it's a veteran crew can start to bring those costs down. We are looking at ways that we can automate our permitting process, and we're, you know, one of our long-term projects is to have a brand that does permitting and does it efficiently, so that effectively, if you have a salesman sell a deal, they can submit for a permit, and the permit pack can be ready within 24 hours. If we get there, we cut down a lot of time. So there are bigger things that we're looking at to drive those costs down. Volume is always one thing that's going to help bring costs down too. So the more we sell, the better price we can get.
City of San Jose still $300 a permit?
Yeah, I think that's what they're costing us right now. And you know, there is in addition to the cost of the permit, there is a not insignificant amount of money you can spend having somebody wait at the permit office to get these things back. San Jose is better. They are sort of over the counter. Fremont is pretty efficient, but you know, we've dealt with a lot of smaller municipalities where it can be up to a week, and you've got to come to the office and the permit will be ready when it's ready. So you know, you've literally got a staffer there to do nothing but sit there and wait for a permit. So there's some regulatory stuff in there too, and obviously we do our best to try and eat those costs and keep them down. If you can get your city to go solar quicker, you know, we'd love that.
And I'm in school, people who hear the word solar and think it's too much.
Uh-huh.
I just got my EV in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pursuing solar for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the Syngenti book I got this last year, it was a 20-some-odd year payback, and at least there was no payback.
Mm-hmm.
At least for like 50 bucks. Mm-hmm. And paying 4 cents to kilowatt hour at a charge per car,
Mm-hmm.
it just was not financially feasible. And we think that we can do better than what I got last year.
We can sensibly out. You know, I think we can. You know, I'm almost sure we can, but I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna promise you anything by looking at your electric bill. But you know, a lot of it is looking at everything as a whole. You know, the eliminating your gas bill in addition to your electric bill, plus the incentives. If you've already bought your EV, you've probably already taken advantage of most of the incentives. What city do you live in? Sunnyvale? Okay. I'll have to ask one of my colleagues about if Sunnyvale has anything specific. Again, you're in Santa Clara County, so some of the hero incentives might work out for you and they might make it work better. There's a couple of ways to make it work. So definitely shop Oregon is, you know, in addition to, you know, obviously in addition to us, I would love if you went with us, but you should have as much information. But yeah, I think we could help you out.
You know, I think I must have signed this petition about 15 times at various fairs.
Mm-hmm.
People go around with a clipboard, and the essence of this movement is to get PG&E to pay us for the surplus that we produce. Is there anything happening in that regard?
There's bad things happening, unfortunately. The Koch brothers have thrown their weight behind eliminating net metering. They want to outlaw it because they want us to burn coal, because I don't think there's a single good thing that they want us to do. Sorry, that's my personal politics right there. But, you know, net metering is an interesting issue for PG&E. There's a lot of discussion about what is the future for a utility, because you know, if everybody wants solar, there's going to be effectively no electric bills. And then, what is PG&E? What do they do? And at the end of the day, you know, as it stands right now, we still do need electrical lines to distribute these things. So there's a lot of talk about, you know, should people who are producing a surplus be on some sort of fixed charge to, you know, at least contribute to the upkeep of our very old electrical infrastructure. And you know, people who bought their solar systems early enough before PG&E sort of put the halt on doing all that are effectively getting paid. And again, they're in a bit of political limbo about what do we do if we keep encouraging this. You know, are they going to be in the business of paying people to produce power and collecting the revenue?
I paid PG&E $6 a month just for the privilege of being connected to them.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
So that is part of it, and they want more than that. Basically, it's, you know, they need some model where if everybody did go solar, you know, that PG is in an interesting position. They have the pledge for 20% by 2020, but then they also are, you know, they can't quite keep up with paying everybody if they start to get that amount. So there's some higher level things going on there that are a bit of a political discussion. You know, do the taxpayers end up subsidizing PG&E to keep them in business so that they can distribute all the electricity? And as much as I like to rail against PG&E, if you really thought about it, and every home did have solar panels on it, what is their business model? And so I think that's
night lights.
I'm sorry.
Night lights.
Yeah, you know, there's I mean, there's a lot of factors in play there. I mean, I think, you know, if we do things right, if we set the right policies, then yes, everybody will get paid for their power, and they'll pay some small fee to have it distributed. I mean, to my mind, you know, knowing what I know, and I'm not saying that's a lot, I think that's a sensible model. And it, you know, even though you're still paying money, it's a fixed cost that you know. It's not unpredictable. You're not worried about, well, all of a sudden my energy bill has spiked, which happens to a lot of people because I had guests over and I didn't realize it was the light on all night or something like that. But that implies that we have a much more comprehensive energy infrastructure in place. You know, we have solar during the day, we have wind at night, we are exploiting, you know, things that are not fossil fuels, that are not nuclear, that are not dirty in a lot of different ways. So.
What are people were asking questions about costs that install costs? Isn't that part of the complexity of the sales model? I mean, you know, one of the things that we're trying to change instead of talking about you know, install costs, it's cost per kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, which at least you can make straight up comparison to what rates are. Mm-hmm. Although it's obviously complicated by time of use. I think the person everyone had 4 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm pretty certain he has time of use. It's the only way you get 4 cents a kilowatt hour, which then complicates the value of any solar system because then you know the power producers is not straightforward. So you have to do this sort of two-phase conversations. Like you do it baseline without time of use. Yeah. Then you go, oh, but we can make it better if we have time of use if it works for you.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, it's one of the challenges of trying to sell solar, and you know, anybody from any solar company can come up here and they'll tell you the same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you know there are a lot of things that we do differently, but anybody who's selling solar at the end of the day is selling you long-term savings, and you know, you will over the life of the system make money, and I think it's just a matter of, you know, and everybody's going to choose a different way of showing you how you make that money. So, you know, as much as I want every solar system in the country to be sold by Slingshot, that's not realistic. So, you know, if you do go with somebody else, and if they're not showing you how you make money in the long run, there's a lot of different, even PG&E-based tools that will show you how you end up making money in the long term. If you forecast I mean, there are certain mandated rises in the cost of energy that are going to be in there. There's your own savings. There's and again, depending on whether on your time of use versus E1, where you're just on the tiers, you know, and you end up only buying subsidized power from PG&E, you're going to save money.
But
so,
I mean, most people these days, day zero could be cash flow neutral.
Yeah.
Not cash flow positive.
We've with projections, we show our customers a lot of them. Like, you know, there might be the first 3 years or so, they may end up with slightly negative cash flow depending on the incentives. And then after that, for the remaining, you know, 27 years of the life of that system is a cash flow positive. I think when people see that, you know, again, our salesman experience have been, you know, if they get in, if they sit down with the customer and they look at all these black numbers, all of a sudden they're like, why didn't I do this sooner? And I think it really is just a matter of sitting down with people on a case-by-case basis, looking at your energy usage, looking at what it could be, and I think it starts to become more attractive. If anybody, you know, if you own an EV and you're charging it at home, and somebody is showing you that your solar system is going to take more than 5 years to pay off, I think they might be overcharging you.
Question.
Yeah.
My electric bill is really tiny by comparison. I have a very small house. Mm-hmm. What's the low end of Slingshot? Do you guys install 1 kilowatt systems?
We'll do it for you. You know, and you know, We'll install whatever system you want. I mean, obviously, where we start to see the real savings for people is when they have an energy bill of about $100 a month, and that's true for basically every company. I don't think there's a company out there that specializes in the 1 kilowatt systems.
There is, and that's the reason I was going to
so
a second Sunwork. If anybody's heard of that.
Oh, okay, yeah, these guys.
Nonprofit
here for them.
Yeah, that's why I actually volunteered myself. I haven't done any work on it yet, but the bill's less than $130 a month. All the work is volunteer, so they just pay for the system.
Yeah, I mean, and Grid Alternatives does a lot of that kind of work too, which is also great. Again, if you can eliminate the install costs, then there's even more significant savings too. So, but yeah, the smallest systems we tend to install are about 6 panels, and again, 6 panels is sort of ideal for offsetting the cost of an EV we found. So that's sort of our sweet spot.
Do you do non-roof systems?
We do non-roof systems. We haven't done a whole lot of them because when we present them to the customer, the cost points get a little different. Anything you install that is not on a roof has to be structurally qualified, which introduces additional costs. There's a lot more shading, obviously, when you start to get down towards ground mounts. And when you're dealing with residential properties in the areas that we've been in, heavily wooded areas obviously are not ideal for things like that. So by and large, we do our best work on roof.
For people that have low usage, have you looked at increasing their usage by doing things like switching some of the loads, like heat pumps or heat pump slash?
We've done some of that, and in fact, for some of the people who have large systems, you know, and when we show them, you know, we'll get you on tier 1, tier 2, where things are subsidized. They're like, show me how I can put more things on my electric bill, you know, and there's an interesting dynamic there, you know, like, and we see this a lot with pools. We'd love to move people over towards electric heaters for their pools. And then if you go and you do research on where you're going to buy one and you look at local pool companies, they'll tell you all about how electric heaters are bad because they're inefficient and they're expensive. Because they operate on this model of if you operate this heat pump, you're going to be in tier 3, tier 4, where you're paying 34 or 35 cents a kilowatt hour. So it doesn't make business sense for them to stock it. And we're in this sort of chicken and egg thing. Well, we can get you cheap power. We can get you power that you make. So why not go electric? And the more we can do with that, you know, and switch appliances over from gas to electric, we can make a lot of value for people. There's that gap then of can we start to get demand for more of these electric appliances because we know we're going to be supplying them with cheap, clean power. So yes, to your point, yeah, we definitely try. People are actually asking us, get me more on my electric bill. I want to pay only, you know, a couple cents for it.
I switched my primary heat source to an air source heat pump 8 years ago, and I haven't had a natural gas bill over $50. It's very comfortable, you know,
yeah,
setting in the minimum.
You are our kind of person. Yeah. I guess, yeah, just before I turn it back over to Wes, again, I just want to reiterate, you know, aside from all the great questions about solar here, like I said, we'd love to partner with you guys for events, and we'd love to provide support. So if you have ideas on how we can help, we'd love that. And again, content-wise, you know, we're going to be producing a lot, and the more we get from people, you know, obviously anybody who's going to come to us is going to say, obviously you guys are going to tell us good things, you're out there to sell things. But, you know, we really are looking for genuine content that people can believe. And so if you feel like you have something to contribute, we'd love to hear from you. So I'll be sticking around at the end of the event for us. So if anybody would like to talk, you know, please feel free to come and find me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of our comments is just that we're looking for more people to present for Hot Sunday nights and the Steam Fest. That will be July, I don't know how, but July 12th, all day Saturday. So please bring your card. We'd love to have you on the airport at the Reedville do strip. But that's it for now. I'm going to make sure we under 2 hours. So please, there's food in the back more, and I think there's probably more coffee going on. But thanks for coming.
Very good. Thank you very much. Just want you to know, I would really like.
We'd love to have.
However, you're going to be able to.
You meet on a weekly basis.
We're done.
Yeah.